minutes of the meeting. Everybody get a chance to look at them and any discussions or changes or?
Nope.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for the the June 5th meeting.
Or May 1st.
May 1st. Did I put June 5th?
It says June 5th. At least on mine it does.
Oh, okay.
There-
Yeah, that was the meeting I had. We didn't have a meeting that week.
Okay,
We only had the last meeting was May 1st.
okay,
So that's-
the minutes of May 1st for both the general and the executive. All of them in favor?
Yours.
And with that, we go over to the director's update.
So we've been busy with just the RTE stuff. The initial applications, as you know, went out in May, and that created an initial wave of response and questions, and then that kind of tapered off a little bit, and we just sent out a second mailing only to people who we had not received an application from yet that we had already deemed likely eligible. That doesn't rule out other people. You can still prove to us that you're eligible. But we didn't necessarily send notice. So that's kind of created another wave of, oh yeah, I have this in a pile in my kitchen, and everyone's kind of applying now or asking what it's about again. That it kind of tapered off a little bit. So there's been a lot of explanation and inquiry and what if sharing of thoughts on the topic over the past few days. But besides that, we also have motor vehicle warrants went out. So people who had gotten excise taxes at the beginning of the year that for some reason or another, maybe something transferred or something with their vehicle, so they didn't necessarily attend to the first bill. So now they have the ones with the fees on it that they're also calling about. So Brian, if you're getting that on your end also in the collector's office. What else is happening? I don't know. I think we're kind of blinded by all that right now. There's all the other stuff is going on too. But there's not much of an update with that. I guess the last we spoke was May, so that was before we actually went through the whole recertification period. So we had our public disclosure period where people could go online and look at their proposed FY26 values, ask questions about it, make corrections to those properties. And we did have some corrections that were made. And so that period ended, and we fully submitted the values to the DOR, and we received approval on them shortly after that. So that kind of moved us into the waiting bin, I guess you could say, and we're just kind of waiting for all the rest of the recap and the tax rate setting process on the back end in collaboration with the finance department and the accounting team to try to get all that together. But we're just kind of waiting for the next step is obviously that tax classification hearing. So we'll do some of that discussion today to get our recommendation piece in place for that. And then that's tentatively scheduled for September 8th. So that is all the update I have for that.
May I ask a
Yes.
question, Dave?
Yes, you may.
Do you by chance have a copy of that postcard you sent out?
Upstairs, we
Oh,
will, yeah.
Yeah, we can give you one after the meeting.
Yeah, cause just people that will come into the library, tonight
Right,
will probably have some questions. I just wanna know what it
Yeah.
said.
right.
I
It's
have the letter from the first time.
And the letter from the first time, we tried to nip any potential question in the bud and, had a lot on that letter. And I think
Right.
that was informative to some and helpful to some, but overwhelming to others. So we tried to really just simplify the postcard, and it said, you're receiving this because we deem you potentially eligible. Give us your tax return, your driver's license, your registration. And kind of left it at that. If you have other weird things going on, obviously reach out and we can tell you what other things we might need from you, but we really tried to just simplify the whole process. Make it not overwhelming.
Okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think one question I got yesterday was on the postcard, we had asked people to apply by September 2nd. And some people were confused by that to a certain extent because they thought they had till April. And so we had to explain that you do have till April, but it's really important that if you're eligible to apply now, and we put that in the postcard that the more applications we have, it's gonna impact the tax rate at the end of the day, so,
Right.
so I think that was just one thing that came up from this, and, you know, in the postcard, we tried to explain as best as we could, cause it's a complex matter to
Right.
go over, so, we've had a lot of those conversations with people that why it's important then to kind of promote encouraging their neighbors and friends to apply now, because it's gonna make a difference for everyone, so.
Right, even though they do have until April 1st to really apply,
Right.
it's complicated,
And
as
we've
we all
had
know.
a few people yesterday saying that, they were waiting to see if it's approved, and I said, I encourage you to, it's a simple application,
Yeah.
doesn't ask for
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot,
don't
if
wait
you
till
can
it's
do it,
approved.
can you just
Right.
do it now, so.
But a lot of people are, or seem to be
Mhm.
waiting to, well, I'm not gonna bother doing all this until I know if it's even a thing.
Yeah.
And that's,
Right.
it's hard to explain the impact of that type of,
Yeah.
you know, decision,
Mm-hmm.
that hesitation, so.
Will you, like, if we vote on the 8th
Mhm.
to implement it, how long after that then do you really send everything, you know, compile everything?
We haven't really discussed exactly what our process for.
Cause you may get a lot that
notification-
week. You know, that come in.
Yeah, and
And is it too, it's not really too late then, I mean, cause you haven't sent everything off, but there's.
no, but so the way that. It's time consuming,
Yeah.
so
Sure.
the ones that come in after that. Depending on our ability to actually work through everything in the office, there are only two, sometimes 2.5 of us, depending on other projects. That are doing this, so the manpower isn't necessarily there to get all the other ones after that onto the bill. That could be an after the fact thing, because we do have, I mean, at this point, still less than 1,800 and change, that have to be put into the billing system essentially, so that's.
Sorry.
And notifications sent to all, so that's a whole mailing that we have to do, and then we have the time period of getting that whole file to the billing company. They give us a deadline of what date they have to have that by. And with that being said, normally the billing process goes very smoothly. We have that down to a T, but now we're adding in a whole new component that we've never done. So maybe.
Make it critical that they make it known that they really need to apply.
Right, to see it on the bill, it has to be there before September 2nd.
Gotcha.
And then, I mean, if we're able, we might be able to get it on even after that, but, the thing is also we're going to have a Board of Assessors meeting that Thursday after that, September 8th. Yeah, yeah. So at that time, all the applications that we have at that moment have to be voted on to be approved, to be put on the bill. So
Gotcha.
after that date, it's a no
Right.
until the following month. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what the timeline would look like.
I was wondering how many, have you had a lot of instances where you have a trust, but the trust is in the kid's name and not in the people that, you know,
Yeah,
are living there? You've had-
right. We didn't initially keep count of that, and because we didn't from the get-go, we haven't really since. There are a few that we've talked to several times, so. You know, the address would stand out in our minds and we knew not to send them a reminder postcard to rub it in, you know, that they're actually still not eligible. But there have been a lot of those.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, just that's how. There's a certain type of trust that sets it up that way, and that's not something that. I guess that we really. Anticipated there being that many of these people who.
Yeah.
You know, would obviously benefit from it, do consider themselves the owners, they live there, they occupy it, they pay the tax bill. They just have financially planned.
Right.
For their future to not have it in their name, so. I can't give you really a number of
No,
how
you don't
many
need
we.
to. I was just curious if there was a lot or just a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say over 20 we've talked to for sure, but, and that could be. Part of the reason why people that we're considering eligible aren't applying because they're just in that bucket, you know, so
Okay.
it's hard to say. But I guess we can move down to the next bullet and kind of get into the nitty gritty of the whole RTE, so. At the time that this was created, these spreadsheets here, we had. I guess we're going off of, this is with an estimate of 1,000, hoping that we'll have 1,000 by the time we actually take. The select board takes the vote, us. But I think we had like 850 applications as of the end of the day yesterday. So. A lot have come in over the past few days though, so we might be up to almost 900. But what we have here, and I didn't number the pages. I apologize for that. So we have. Two demonstrations of what it would look like at 5% and 10%. So one sheet is 10%. So we'll look at the 5% sheet first. That was the first page. And on the front of that, I believe those are the numbers. If it were actually a 55-45 split, as we anticipated, it would be based on our data that we had at hand. With that, you can kind of see, we have figured out the median single family home building value is 755.9. And for that bracket, that would at 5%, they'd be saving roughly $192.92 on their bill at the expense of an equal valued home. Costing them $123.73. And that is at the ideal split that we think we would eventually get to if everyone just applied. On the flip side of that page, that's the reality of where we actually are, slightly overestimated at 1,000, thinking that we'll get to that 1,000 applications point by the time we have the classification hearing. The reason that we are doing this is because you can't use an estimate when you're setting the tax rate. It doesn't matter that even if you know for a fact that you'll have 2,500 eligible applicants, you can only use the number that you have at that time. So this is kind of a more realistic look at it, because this is what's going to determine the amount that you're getting off of your taxes, what that split looks like. So this would be $267 off for that median single family home at the cost of $47.26. So the reason that is because you're taking all those potentially eligible applicants and you're including them into the ineligible category. So your base that you're spreading this out on is massive, and it skews it to be pretty unrealistic to the reality of what we really have there. So it doesn't look that bad when you look at it this way, if this is how it ended up.
Like a 85-15 split.
Yeah, 85-15
number,
split.
yeah.
Roughly.
So, I mean, we're looking like P-Town if you look at it here. It looks like, well, that's not that bad of an idea, but that's not the reality of it. And the problem, if this is the actual amount that we end up with when we're setting the tax rate, is that all of those additional ones that haven't applied that say, oh, okay, they passed it and now we're going to go ahead and apply, that all has to come out of the overlay. And we did have that initial override that was passed to put the 200,000 into the overlay. But if this is the scenario that we're going with at the classification hearing, we're adding an additional 480,000 exposure to the overlay to cover those other people, because now you're looking at the 267.29 that you have to take up, or whatever that's just for the median single family home, but the value itself this is at 5% that I'm looking at. You're taking 40,553 off of all of those homes. I don't have the additional exposure noted on there.
But it's 400
480 roughly, I think,
top of the 200 that you.
on top of the two. You discussed
No, I
this a
don't
bit
think
more
it's
with
on
Rich,
top of
or
it. I
it's
think
all together.
All together. And that's what Rich and I kind of talked about, was realistically, how many of those people would come in to
Mhm.
apply? And he said probably half
Mhm,
at the most. So that would be the 200. So we'd be covered.
mhm.
So that's Dave
And
and I were
there's
kind of
still
talking about.
that window until September 2nd, all those.
Well, there's the window until April first of the following year.
No, but I mean, like, that will have the actual number.
Right.
Like between
Right.
now and
Between now
September
and then.
second, whoever comes in.
Right.
That'll be baked in,
Right,
Right.
so it might not be
which, so
this
it won't
bad.
be that bad.
Yeah.
Right,
It would be nice if it was as good as the other side of the page, but that's not likely just based on
yeah, it's gonna be somewhere in between.
somewhere in between.
These two.
Right, exactly.
So the
So-
200 should, if say half
Mhm.
came in, which seeing how the turnout was to apply, I'm not sure if.
It's
we could
hard.
Even that.
It's hard to estimate. I feel like when we'll get the most applications is when the actual tax bill goes out. They look at their bill, they try to figure out, because that's always when people come with questions about their value, why is my bill so high? And that's when we're gonna have to say, this is why, based on sales, but we have these programs. Have you
But
applied?
basically, like if it is that, say 5% and it's only 1,000 people sign up. They might not notice because their bill's only gonna go up 40 some dollars, maybe 40 or 50 if they have a median value home.
Right,
So there's nothing in there that says that they're not qualified for an exemption, right?
on the bill itself.
Right. It only says if you are.
It will be on the bill showing that you get it, and I don't know if there should be language on the bill itself.
Saying that you don't.
Say, no, not saying that you don't, but asking if you have already applied. I don't know, how long do we push for applicants?
Right.
Do you stop after? I mean, these people are eligible and they might not know about it. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
But that's only. Saying that it's going up $47, that's only in comparison to what it would be without it.
Right.
That's outside of the fact that there are still town projects going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Your valuation also increased, so it's going up anyway, it's just how much is it going up, so people always notice when they get their tax bill and half will call. So,
Yeah, this is like in addition to
right,
the increase that's gonna happen
mhm,
because of inflation, isn't it? Just. all kinds
right,
of
the
stuff.
market,
Yeah.
and, I mean, even though on average, the increase wasn't that drastic for just valuation, at roughly 3%. Across town this time around, but. That varies by area also, and some, depending even across the street, if you're in a different neighborhood, you could have gone up 12 while your neighbor went up 3, but. There's lots of factors that go into that.
The budget went up 3%.
So, yeah, I mean, there'll still be,
They're gonna question. Some
Yeah.
people are always gonna question.
and that's when a third wave of applicants are going to definitely come in. And. I'm just thinking this through, abatements, you wouldn't be filing for an abatement, you can just still apply,
Not for that, yeah.
not for that, yeah, so. That won't impact our abatement season, that'll just be,
In addition to.
right, they can just continue to apply until April 1st, so.
So
Look, looking forward in the future, just out of curiosity. If the select board keeps increasing it, let's just say they eventually increase it to 25%.
Mhm.
Is that just 5 times what it is at the 5%, or isn't it that straight?
Well, yeah, the numbers won't be the same, but
No.
it'll be 5 times
Right,
in that year,
okay, that's what, yeah,
If
that's
you're
what I
looking
was,
at 2 spreadsheets with the same data.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't put all the tabs on this one because I think we're probably playing around with some of these figures here, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
put them side by side.
I just didn't know if it was strictly linear or whether, it morphed because of
Right,
things, I don't know.
Well, it's not gonna morph depending on the median value
yeah, so each year,
every year.
the average residential value is what you have to build it off of, so whatever percentage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This year, it's 811.63. That's the average residential value. Also, you'll see, I think worth noting. On either the 10% or the 5%, you'll see that the break even, if you're on the side that has. the full potential applicants of the 2584. Your break even is around 1.9 million. But on the other side, if you only have 1,000 applicants, your break even is down in the 5 million. So that's where you're going to have some people who are eligible this year, or who actually see a benefit this year. And they can kind of fall off as our actual split gets down to, it probably takes 2 or 3 years to get everyone who really is eligible into the application system. And in that 3rd year, your break even will kind of be where it's going to be, but until then, you're gonna have this drastically inflated one that kind of pushes people out year after year as it gets down to the realistic one.
Hmm.
Do we have any, I know there's a lot on these, but it's kind of, you've seen these a time or two, it's just kind of going through the value on the left. And then the middle column shows if you do get the exemption, the far right shows if you do not get it, so it kind of just breaks it out here. No questions, any discussions?
I mean, one concern that crossed my mind, in thinking about who we're trying to help with this is a situation of a year-round renter. You know, who can't afford to buy a place of their own, so they're renting year-round. That property owner is gonna be stuck with the higher rate, which they're gonna pass on to that renter.
Right, that's going to probably be the case for all, most of the rentals, unless the, you know, tenant can just, or the owner can absorb that cost and try to not pass it on. Yeah, that is gonna be one of the, part of the outfall.
Yeah. I mean, of anything, you know, that's like the one thing that gives me pause, like, and how many is that versus how many are we going to be assisting?
Right. And I don't know the number of year-round rentals off the top of my head. I know we have a file for it. I'm not sure. I
Mhm.
guess I could try to get into SharePoint. Yeah,
When we had the housing study done, I believe it was in the 80s, something
Mhm.
between 80 and 90.
oh, the count of year-round
Count of
rentals.
year-round, single-family homes,
Mhm.
year-round rentals, single-family homes. Used to be over 400.
Mhm.
So that was, for me, that was one of the things that kind of tipped me
Mhm.
to go for this. And one thing we plan on doing, I wanted to do it last town meeting, but without it having been approved yet. The appetite wasn't there for the rest of the board, but Provincetown has, special legislation to do an exemption for year-round rentals. So that they get included.
Yeah, the extended residential exemption.
Right.
Kind of a,
Right, and we also have Reach the Locals programs, which is now picking up. So hopefully, if they can hang on a year, we definitely plan on doing it next year, if this all goes through.
well, for the special legislation, is that at the state level, or we'd have to
It's state.
propose? It already is
Well-
adopted. I know that they did special
Yeah.
legislation. I think that we'd have to go
We have to go
through the
we have to go
process,
through the
which could
process.
take
6 months.
between those two, yeah, between 6 months
Probably, yeah,
and a few
probably less,
years.
since it's already, we'd use the exact same language, and I'm
Mhm.
sure we could get, our local people, our local reps to really push it to get it through.
That is a good point, though, and then there's the matter of the other ones that you brought up. Is there something for the people who are technically owner occupants, but have, are not named as trustees? Is there something to help them? That was another question that I know you brought up. And we have the tax aid committee, but that's income based.
Right.
So you'd have to you'd have to fall into that category, and the wording of that as it stands is also, you'd have to be eligible, you have to be an owner and an occupant, so, but since that is a town kind of gilded project that we had, we could maybe change that to address this small pocket that we're creating of.
Well, I mean, in my mind, like, the people that have created those trusts have created it mostly for tax advantage purposes. And so it's kind of on them to weigh where the biggest benefit is for them and
Right.
address it that way. If they need to change their trust or, you know,
Right.
react that way, but
Mhm.
there's tax implications to creating that trust that are advantageous to that party.
Right,
So
That's
it's just
very
a matter
fair.
of deciding which one is most tax
Mhm.
advantageous.
yes,
Right, but I think that's a hard thing to explain though, when you're at the counter, even when it's about beach stickers. I mean, you'd be amazed at how many people are like, but it's my home, and you have to explain that to them that that's not their home.
Mhm.
right,
And
or
it's-
don't know that they've even put it in a trust,
Yeah.
that's the paperwork you signed with your kids, and this is how it looks at the end, you know? Yeah, there are lots of different scenarios that play out.
So are we all set in the discussions? Um. So should we make a motion to accept this and then do a vote as to whether we want the RTE or
No, this is just kind of,
information?
yeah, it's some added detail to help you make that decision of what your recommendation will be. I guess what we should build into it, I know that this is like the biggest and most highlighted recommendation that you make, but we also have the small business exemption and the open space exemption, which we don't have any open space, so you'll vote to recommend not to adopt that. And then the small business one, pretty much each year, we don't recommend, it's almost a similar thing to that rental. Is that going to be passed down to the small business that's in that actual building, or is the person renting that building to them going to just be benefiting? So generally, I think as far back as I have record of, that's always been voted to not recommend that small commercial exemption. So we can take a vote on all three of those.
And is our vote just yay or nay on the RTE or also on going with 5% versus 10%, like as a recommendation?
I think that it'd probably be beneficial to let them know what you think would be the best idea here, with you kind of having command of the subject matter.
I mean, to me, going with 5% seems most prudent, just because of the discrepancy of the numbers and that period we're going to have between now and April.
Mhm.
Which could bite us
Right.
to some degree, whereas if we start with that small figure and then as the years progress, we'll
Right.
sort things out and then we'll have better, people will have better understanding, make applications appropriately, and it'll be easier to implement.
Yeah, I think there'll be very few kind of just after the fact abatements almost.
Mhm.
In years, maybe even 2 and 3, there'll be some in 2, fewer in 3, but this year is such a wild card unknown factor that it's hard to buffer for some unknown number that you're just really, it's all a prediction.
The other thing, Andrew, is that if we were to start with 10%. At this point. We wouldn't have enough in the overlay budget in order to cover.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Even
exactly.
half, yeah, it wouldn't cover it.
Yeah, but I mean, we might not now.
Yeah,
If-
no, that's
I mean,
possible.
if the half estimate is, if only half of those people actually apply or actually are eligible, then we have just enough to cover it. But if 60%, 70, I don't know. Then you're gonna have an overlay deficit, which will be dealt with after in following years, I don't know, that's not really my purview,
Do you have to go out and borrow one?
you just kind of make up for it in the following years when you don't have to buffer for this, when you know that you're gonna have this many. I think that you can just kind of still allocate this much for your overlay and you'd just be making up for what you had lost in years past, I think, so.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept or pass the RTE at a 5% level,
So to recommend that
We
the select
recommend-
board,
that the select board passes it at a 5% level. In September 3rd, is it, or
Okay,
8th, I'm sorry.
Second,
I think we ought to vote it almost individually on this, Brian,
Yay,
Andrew,
in favor, yes.
and yay with me, so it passes. At 5%.
okay, and then how about for small commercial exemption? Vote to recommend or not,
We do not want to have that,
right,
Andrew,
Correct.
oh, yeah,
and then open space,
please,
it just kind of
Yeah.
goes without, I mean, you could take a formal
I guess we.
recommendation, but
we don't want that.
Right,
yeah, we don't have that.
see it in the snow.
Okay. And that is all I have for RTE, then we kind of move on to. The next bullet down here, we have our county tax and environmental protection fund that each year, I don't know. If you were all here for it last year, it's just an annual tax that is. Sent to the town for, well, we have the county tax and the environmental protection fund, so we're just. The Board of Assessors is just. The board that votes to release these funds to pay the bill, basically.
Is that what do we get some of that back with the sewage treatment kind of thing? No,
I don't. Know the details on this. It's not really something that we're involved in aside from. Allowing it to be paid.
Is that what's paid on the like transfer property, sale property?
No. This is just part of, being part of home or Barnstable County Home Rule Charter. Each town is assessed a certain percentage. And I don't know if it's based on population or size. It's different for each town.
We do,
no, but that's okay.
And that concludes the general business portion. Then we move into executive session to do all of our exemptions.
Dave, can I bring up one other point?
Sure can.
So we, like I said, we plan to put an article
you.
on town meeting in May about the extending the year-round rentals for an exemption. This all goes through. The other thing we probably will do is that HERO Act expansion. Those numbers all went up for veterans,
Mhm.
the disabled vets, the numbers. Under the HERO Act, I don't think we did any increases this.
So it was discussed, I kind of laid out what the impact on the overlay would be, but with this kind of unknown RTE component, it was just a not now.
Exactly. So we'll probably be bringing that back up to my point, so that may be something you wanna discuss.
We have
before
discussed that before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and just, a recommendation on what.
I think we can look back in the minutes, but you did have a recommendation,
Yeah.
One of
I
them.
think. Right,
I think we wanted it.
yes.
Yeah.
To
So
up it
just
to-
put that back on your radar.
Yeah.
That'll be coming. If that's something we wanna do. just wasn't a good time. So,
Right, there's a lot going on at the moment.
yes, I think I appreciate all your hard work.
So is there any other business that we haven't discussed that anybody wants to bring up or? So with that, I'll call,
See you go. Thank you so much.
you're welcome,
for
thank you for coming. With that, I'll make a motion that we adjourn at whatever the time is.
Well, we
11:40.
adjourned, yeah, just general.
Oh, general,
Yeah,
right,
executive.
and not to return to going into executive session
Thank
and
you.
not to return to the general session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Deb.
Okay, so we have